Welcome to the Diversity Connector podcast, where we explore the rich tapestry of human experiences. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country on which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging, and together as we dive into conversations that bridge cultures, challenge stereotypes, and celebrate the unique perspectives each of us brings to the table. Each episode is a journey through stories and insights from a kaleidoscope of voices, each sharing their colorful narrative. Whether you're at home, on the go, or just anywhere in between, you're now part of a community that values understanding, inclusivity, and the beauty of diversity. So plug in your headphones, get comfortable, and let's connect through the power of our shared stories. Welcome, and thank you for joining us on the Diversity Connector podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Diversity Connector. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jayne Nadarajoo. I am from Singapore. I'm 54 years old, and I'm an advocate for inclusion and diversity. I speak to you from my office today, which is part of a social enterprise that my husband and I fund and run. We have two schools. We have an inclusive international school called Melbourne International School, and we have the Guild, which is Singapore's first private vocational college. I have been an educator for 30 years now. That will give away my age, which I've already told you. I started very early. My motivation to work comes from a space of survival. I don't come from a very privileged background, so all I know is you work for what you want, you go and get it. And I evolved into becoming a social entrepreneur. I started as a preschool teacher, and I think that sets a very strong DNA of a person who is a teacher. It changes you. You look at things differently, and even today, everything I do, I go back to the core of being a preschool teacher, thinking about the social emotional effect, anything and everything that we do at work, and how it affects and supports the children, the people in our community. When we first started our preschool, that was in 1999. I started an entrepreneurial journey purely from the space of being a mother. I wanted different things from my own children. And I believe that good education should not, it should be an entitlement and not a privilege. So, what I couldn't afford, say the expensive international schools in Singapore, which provide amazing opportunities, I decided to set a preschool up for my own son, who was 3 years old at that time. Um, I had worked for many years. I was confident in some of the practices. I had my own ideas, and I got very excited, being a young mother. And I thought, oh, I could do this. I like learning, but I also like focus on, you know, the community, the environment, and all these other things. There was not a lot of focus on IB then, but I guess I was already ahead and looking forward in thinking from a space of a parent, on what I wanted for my own children, which was very much, being good people and good people who could effect change and value add. Um, and I launched the preschools in 1999. That grew. I had a great career. It went on to an international school. It went on to me opening a special needs school. Now, I never thought that, I didn't know much of special education when I first started out as a preschool teacher. But working with kids and supporting kids from a young age, um, providing them with the best opportunities and equal opportunities, um, made me realize that there was just not one method of teaching, there was just not one school, but it should be there should be no segregation. Instead of them going to individual schools, we were a preschool that was for all children. But when it came to finding the next school for some of our 6-year olds, we had many difficulties, purely because schools had academic focus or lack of resources. So, well, to me, there were just many excuses. A lot of health and safety was presented. So I decided that, how do I tell a 6-year old that he didn't have a school to go to? So I set up my first special school then. We were very inclusive in many ways, but we did end up with a group of children who all had diverse needs. There were kids and families coming to see us, and saying that they hadn't been to school for a couple of years because there was no school to support them. Um, that inspired me, motivated me even more. I kept my preschool and worked there while I ran the special school with a team so that I could fund it. In Singapore, you don't get a lot of financial support if you are a private school. Um, and so, we thought, okay, let's make the best of both. My husband then left his job to join me so that I could have more help at the preschools. And we grew it. We grew it into a very successful business. Um, and we were enjoying what we did, but more importantly, we were value adding and we were learning. And I then went on to pursue a master's in teaching and learning, and with specialization in inclusion. And it then also made me think that, when we say we support kids, and we then have all these labels and limitations, I started spending a lot more time with the kids. And then COVID happened. uh, I think COVID probably changed all of us in many ways for the better. It was a very trying time, but I think a time that also forced us to take perspectives, put perspectives into place, as well as, kind of do self reviews. One of the conversations that I had with a young lady at our school, she said to me, like, we don't get to go to prom nights. And I said, really? Why not? And she said, oh, that's because we're not very clever. And I said, who's saying that to you? And she said, because we don't ever get invited. And then I realized, being a small school where we do little things, and she's looking at her older sister and thinking to herself and coming to her own conclusions that she's not getting the same opportunities. Um, and I thought, why can't you go to college then? Just because you're not pursuing a degree or a diploma. And I then decided that maybe that's something that we'll do. We'll start working on setting up a vocational college. At that point, we thought at 18 our job will be done. The kids will graduate and they'll go on, to different organizations and pursue training in, say, an area of interest. Uh, but because there were no opportunities again, and having a very supportive family helped at that point. I remember a conversation with the kids, my own kids, who are amazing young adults. Saktish is 28 years old and Kinesha is 24. We're very proud of them. They pursue their own careers, as well as they do give back to the community in their own way, which makes me very proud. They said to us that they didn't need to inherit a business from us, that we could pursue and do what we wanted. They were going to write their own stories, which then gave me the financial freedom. I think all of us who are parents, education is what you want to empower your children with. And once you've done that, and then you go like, okay, now I've done my job, they'll go and do what they need to do. And so we very boldly left our jobs, our corporate jobs, and we decided that if we had good 10 years or so, what would we do? We would value add on a larger scale, and we launched the guild. So the guild provides training, it provides life skills, it provides a many different pathways. And I say pathways is because based on diversity and inclusion, you constantly have to look at different ways. There's no one pathways. If this doesn't work, it's fine. You tried it, now try something else. And that inspires me every day. I work with the young adults. I listen to their aspirations, their dreams. I see their ability. I'm very blessed because I think, you know, um, to have a job that inspires you, to give you such joy. There are trying days, but the trying days are learning days for us. They are trying, it's because we hadn't thought of something or we've put limitations on ourselves. Um, we are working really hard to change mindsets. And I think that is something that comes with education, that comes with awareness, that comes with creating a common social understanding, uh, of creating a system to help a society that we need to accept all. And I think today, in the work that we do, when I say accept all, it goes from being not, it doesn't just mean accepting students of diverse needs, but also accepting teachers from all walks of background, teachers from different cultural background. In Asia in particular, it's just my personal observation that there's a lot of expectations on how an educator should look or speak. And we are rapidly changing that mindset by modeling and giving our fellow educators confidence to say, just be you. You are good enough. uh, Enjoy what you do. Don't feel like you have to follow someone else's ways. At the end of the day, many of us have done the same level of training or the same kind of training. We sometimes are not allowed to be ourselves just because of certain expectations from the community. And yet we say that we're an inclusive school or an inclusive organization. So I think you need to be a little bit more confident in presenting yourself, which also then, gives confidence to the people you work with and ultimately the children. So in our schools, we always employ people who of diverse needs, because we say you have to be a practitioner of what you preach. uh, so it's lovely that we have them because we learn from them. We learn about their challenges, we learn about their dreams, and we learn about their wants and how we can help them. And that also supports the way we educate children and train them. So that's instant feedback that you get. And I think it's also inspiring. If you walk through our college, the first person you'll meet is our lovely receptionist, who has Down syndrome. Super confident. I love her enthusiasm. Especially on a Friday, that is the weekend, just like all of us. And I can see that. I can see the children or the students that we're working with who could evolve into being like her, better than her, or perhaps at least that she's there to model for them and give them the confidence. And that also gives all our visitors um, the same kind of confidence when they walk in. And they're very surprised sometimes to say that we have more than one member of staff uh, who has some sort of diagnosis. And we said, look, um, at the end of the day, everyone can contribute to the society or the community in some way. We just have to be very frank and flexible. No, I think it's the expectations that we create around us, um, that does not allow us to effect change on a larger, um, and have like a greater social impact. So if you are working in an inclusive school, if you're a parent with a child who is differently able, I think you need not be alone. There are many people in the communities everywhere. Um, I am not afraid to ask. I am not afraid to connect, and I encourage many people to share because I think everyone has so much to share. And it takes unbelievable courage to be an inclusive educator. I say that because it is emotionally and physically exhausting. So we need to be brave uh, to approach each day um, for that day and give it our best. There's no shame, there's no regrets, there's definitely no guilt. Good days are great. Not so good days, it's fine. We reset, we try again, but we discuss. We celebrate what has worked. We don't look at the bottom 10% of what didn't work. We look at in totality of the many things that went well. So let's not just focus on the one thing that perhaps didn't go as planned. It happens to the best of us. And I think, um, success for me is my love for what I do, is my care for the people in my community and the greater community. So that's that gives me it encourages me.
What an amazing story. Just listening to you talk, I can see that this has been your life's work. You live and breathe the celebration of diversity. And this must come from deep, deep, deep within you, because I know you are an immigrant to Singapore. Tell us a little bit about your immigrant story, coming there for the first time, and what you experienced as a minority, in quotes.
So for me, my family would have migrated or to Singapore. So I'm third generation Singaporean. So I'm very blessed that my forefathers have laid the path, and I live in a very culturally diverse country that is respectful of all cultures. I think we have the most public holidays or bank holidays, as some of you may know. We celebrate different festivals. We eat different types of food. So for me, I think my the core of who I am is already an inclusive person, which would be almost most Singaporeans because we go to school together. You walk into what we call like hawker center, food courts. You will see people um, eating different types of cuisine. So we've grown up, and I think now we are spearheading inclusion and supporting people who are differently able. And that comes with good governance. We are very blessed. We have a lot of security in our country, which allows change to take place. Sometimes it hasn't taken place as fast as it could have, perhaps purely because of mindsets and the confidence. So I think we are rapidly changing that. We've had an amazing president who's been an advocate, a female president who's been an advocate for inclusion. So we've seen great changes in a short time, and we continue to. So people like me are part of the journey. We value add in the way that we can.
Let's talk a little bit about intersectionality and the celebration of people who have got many aspects to their beings. You're talking about your ancestry and how you're a third generation Singaporean, but
Hmm.
within you, you have multiple cultures, you've experienced other things that people who are born in Singapore would never get to experience. Why is that important, and why should employers pay attention to the intersectional aspect of the people who work for them?
Because to start off, you don't see people as different. When you are grown up with such diversity, um, and I guess it comes from a very simple space of also values, right? I think the values that I have been brought up with. I think religion is another part that perhaps affects and supports who we evolve into or become. So I think these are what differentiates a cultural melting pot like Singapore compared to perhaps other countries, because there is a celebration. So for me, I think having come from a ethnic South Indian background, I'm a Hindu, proud to be one. I go to the temples, and I go to the temples in my work clothes. I'm dressed decently. I don't feel like I have to dress just like an Indian to go to the temple and then come to the office. So it's become a way of life for us. And that's what we celebrate. And that's what I talked about when there's pressures to say a teacher should look a certain way. No, I think all the students don't look a certain way, and there should be no expectation. So why should teachers look a certain way? And I say this a lot to teachers in international schools, where I say, like, if all the teachers looked a particular type, and the students are all of different ethnic background or race, how do you inspire all of them to be teachers? Or are we setting up are we setting a mindset that only certain types of people can be teachers and many others are just assistants or bus attendants? So I said you have to be very aware when you put things when you present things to children, because you can't control their perception and how they process information. And so I think that's kind of where I come from. I come from a space of being confident of who I am, where I've come from, and of course, there's also been, I guess, a bit of hard work by our forefathers in having to perhaps, create this path for us. I know they've not had it easy, but we are blessed. I mean, I must say I'm blessed because, I live in Singapore and this is home for me. I listen to maybe stories from my children who may have different experiences living in London and New York. But I guess the core of what what I would always say to them is just be yourself, be confident, be kind, be respectful. These are things that, you send them away with.
Now, your decision to empower staff members who have special needs, why is it important for us to bring people into the workspace, into mainstream areas, as an example of the potential that is in every human being?
Um, I think it's equality, right? I mean, isn't that what we are trying to educate? A lot of our curriculum talks about, doing service, saving the environment, going green. Um, so why won't we practice it at the workplace? We don't want to just teach something just for the sake of teaching it. It's a way of life. It should become part of who we are. And I think they have so much to give. We just have to be. I'm very practical in many ways. Being an entrepreneur as well as a teacher, I think the combination of understanding skills and what people can do and what they're trained to do. So when we employ someone, we'd say, look, let's see what's going to work for you. 8 hour shifts, Singaporeans, usually do an 8 hour workday. And we said, maybe not everyone's built and ready to be able to work 8 hours a day. So you start with, some flexible work timings. I mean, you do that for mothers, you do that with dads with young children. Why wouldn't you do that with a person who's differently abled? So I think we look at it as, oh, it could be a problem, but I think we are already practicing flexibility and diversity at work. We just have to extend it to someone who does not perhaps look in the way someone thinks that they should look, because they can learn to do skills. I mean, the like the example I gave you of our receptionist. She started with, she has shorter hours, and that's because she has Down syndrome and she gets exhausted. And
Yes.
just like all of us, when you're exhausted, what happens? You get grumpy.
They're not at your best. Definitely.
Yes, and
Wow.
and then you get it's misinterpreted as, perhaps you don't have the skills or the communication. So, in autism, when we work, there's a very simple theory: the antecedent, the behavior, and the consequence. I've started applying that to everything I do, and I'll say, well, we all know what the behavior is and the consequence. So why don't we like kind of plan for that? So be proactive. And but people
Yeah.
with disability, actually, we have someone with dwarfism at work. We have someone with autism as well as Down syndrome, and all three of them have an equal role if you came into our organization. And I'm not saying we're better than any other organization. I think because we are flexible and because we understand, we have knowledge about these disabilities, so we're able to support it.
I love that. So you have actually created a work environment that accommodates the limitations of the people who are working for you to make it possible for them to operate at their optimum, correct?
Yes. And it's the same
So,
thing that we do for someone who's has a new baby. So why wouldn't you do it for
yeah,
someone who has a disability?
yeah, yeah, no, I love that. Now, if you were to go back to the beginning of your business entrepreneurial journey and give somebody advice who's just starting out right now, wanting to go into business, wanting to create a fair and equitable environment, based on what you've learned so far, what are the three main things that you can impart, three nuggets of wisdom for a new entrepreneur?
Um, expect no favors. I say this to a lot of young women. Whether you're a mother, whether you are a new graduate, you decide where you want to go. Use the resources. Be confident. Um, if something doesn't go well, um, there's no guilt or shame. I think I've said it a few times today. Use it as a learning opportunity. Sometimes adversities are the best opportunities. Are the best times to create opportunities for yourself. Um, family support. I think if you have children, you can't be at every concert. You can't be at every football game. Well, fathers are not at every game, so I don't think we should expect mothers to be at every game. So be be confident, and I think you have to be selfish sometimes. If you want to build a career for yourself, you want to start a business. um, what's your end goal? What do you want to do? What's your motivation to work? It's a very simple questions of who am I and what do I want for myself. um, Even if we are contributing to a household income, I think there should be some focus on self. And if you don't like the job you're doing, and how can you make the job work better for you? If you build a business, don't be afraid. When people say that, oh, most times it has to fail for it to be successful, I think a bit differently. Not all of us, have perhaps the financial means for something to fail, for us to learn from it. So plan better. Use don't collaborate. I think that's the key word. Collaborate with others. There's so many other people out there who've had a similar journey or in the same space as you. So collaborate, ask, learn, and I think empower yourself. Look after yourself, right? Because you get hit with so many things that you need to declutter.
Mhm.
No shame, no guilt. When you're driving your business and building your business, you can't please everyone. Sometimes you have to make unfavorable decisions. As long as it's fair, and you know that it's you've not taken advantage of anyone, but unfortunately sometimes situations that hasn't worked, it's better to make that change than to have that change not allow you to grow or go where you need to go. I have a very simple theory, which I learned from one of my mentors. Said if you start a business, is the right bus. This bus is going to this particular area. So when someone comes on board onto your team, and you say, well, maybe you're not in the right seat, you can change seats. Get
Mm.
up, and maybe you're not like sales. You thought you're good in sales, but maybe this is not for you. Try something else. Maybe try teaching instead of marketing. You do one or two changes, and it's okay to get off the bus, because this bus is going where it needs to go. You can't keep changing the way you run your business because you're trying to please everyone else.
I love that analogy of the bus. A lot of times as organizations, we don't pay attention to who's on the bus. What are their skills, and are they working in their area of skill or not? That's
Yes.
absolutely beautiful. So, my final question, or second to final question for you, is if I could teleport you into the future as a diversity and inclusion advocate, when you are 90 years old and you're sitting in your rocking chair, reflecting back on your life, the contribution you've made, if I could teleport you into the future to have a conversation with a 90-year-old you, what would you say to this amazing woman who's led you to that point?
I would say, well, what a ride it has been, and so much fun. I think I'll be very grateful. I am very grateful even now to be able to do what I do. I think it's the journey. I think I'll be very thankful for the people I've met, the memories I have, the stories I can tell, and yeah. So that I think that would be what I would reflect on. It's the people and the memories.
I love that. I love asking women this question because a lot of times we don't realize that that wise woman is already in us. She's already guiding us. This is why you're doing the work that you're doing. My grandmother used to say that we're all born with a seed inside us that has to come to life. And you're following your seed, you're following your promptings, you're changing the world, and you're going to leave it a better place because you trusted yourself. So
Yes.
thank you so much for your work. This work is needed. The last question, which would go amiss if I didn't ask you why you called your business Melbourne.
Oh,
Where did the
okay.
word Melbourne come from? I'm very curious about that.
Okay, so when I first started the school, and because I'm trained in early childhood, and I studied like autism and all that, and but I wanted a tried and tested uh, method. I didn't want the children to be part of the process of me learning. So being very ethical, I'm very, that's one of my challenges for myself, right? Because I'm very principled, and I want to do things right. I've become a lot better to say it's okay if it's not perfect. And the children have taught me that, I tell you. So I went to Australia, and I actually looked at a few schools, and someone said to me, well, go to this amazing school in Port Phillip. You will love it. So that's what I did. I got on the plane, I went to Port Phillip, spent the morning there with the amazing people, loved the school. It was just a state school, nothing fancy, and but it was so authentic. What they were doing inspired me, and I thought, "Oh, this is what is needed." So we then signed an agreement with the education board to actually have a partnership with the school.
Okay.
So, and in respect and being thankful for the opportunity that they gave me, I just rocked up one day and asked them, right? And I thought I would call it Melbourne for that reason, because that's where it came from. And I do love the foundation to year 10 curriculum. I like the inclusive practices from Australia. Most times people think I'm Australian. They go like, "Oh, so are you Australian?" And I go like, "Oh, you know." we are who we are. I have family members who are Australian. My in-laws, we have extended family in Australia. So I say
Okay.
to them, no, I'm an advocate for the wonderful programs that Australia offers.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Well, I feel really privileged to have had this time with you. Thank you so much for coming online and gracing us with your presence. And like I said, thank you for your work.
You're most
Just keep
welcome.
on keeping on. It is absolutely inspiring.
Thank you for the opportunity. And next time when you're in Singapore, you'll come visit us.
Definitely do that. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. The Diversity Connector is connecting phenomenal people from all over the world who have a passion for diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity. Tune in again tomorrow when I interview another amazing person. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Jayne, thanks again for the interview.
My pleasure. Thank you. Have a
Bye
great
for now,
weekend ahead.
everybody. You
Bye.
too. And that's a wrap, everybody, on today's episode of the Diversity Connector podcast. Thank you for tuning in and being part of our vibrant and global conversation. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a tapestry of diverse perspectives. Remember, every story you've heard today is a thread in the larger fabric of our shared humanity. So, as you step back into your world, carry these stories with you and let them inspire you to embrace and celebrate the rich diversity around us. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these inspiring stories with more listeners. Do follow us on social media by looking for the Diversity Connector podcast for more updates. Until then, keep connecting, keep listening, and keep celebrating the beauty of diversity. This is the Diversity Connector podcast signing off. Stay curious, stay open, and definitely stay connected.